So before I started filming this, I had given Tsonga a meal in the position right next to the mounting block so that he could get used to the context. But this is the actual start of the session where I guide him towards the position with a nose target. And he knows this target from other contexts and other sessions. So if your horse does not know this target, I would strongly recommend introducing them to it beforehand, because it is very useful for these trauma work sessions. My initial intention here was to guide him into position with the nose target, then click and treat into the bucket. As you can see in the beginning, he has some trouble understanding what I'm asking of him, but that is very normal because he's very used to target my body with his head, and here he is supposed to keep his head away from me. You could call that a mistake of mine in training, that I reward him targeting me with his head, but I just never saw a big problem in it with this particular horse, and it also helped him in the beginning to release some parking brakes, so it was actually very useful. So here I am simply conditioning a different habit in this particular context, that is torso next to me and head away. Well, conditioning is easier said than done, as you can see, because I have the treats, high value treats, that is apples and carrots, right in front of him on a silver platter, so to say. So it is no surprise that he finds it difficult to not target me, especially since he is new to this concept. You can see it did help him when I step off the mounting block next to him to guide him back into the position when he doesn't understand the nose target right away. At this point, I had already gotten rid of the silver platter right in front of his eyes, and I had also guided him back with my body again, but he is still confused, which is fair enough. So I just wait it out and I gently tell him to not bite me, which might not have been the best decision, but this is what I thought was the right decision in that moment. Looking back at it, I should have probably gotten off the mounting block again to guide him back to the bucket, or alternatively I should have given him more treats at once so that he would have had to chew and rest in the position more. But I didn't think of that at this point, and in the end it worked out okay. Here you could just hear me try to introduce stand as a cue for this behavior, but I later disregarded that because it turned into more of a classical conditioning approach rather than operant conditioning. Tsonga is not trying to bite me here, he's just seeking for the treat in my hand, but it's not in there. He's not aggressive or super frustrated, but he is confused. This confusion coincided with the fact that I had run out of my high value treats, and that was actually very lucky. You might be as confused as Tsonga now, because why would I be lucky that my high value treats ran out? The ones that I wanted to use so that this would become a very highly reinforced place and behavior. The simple explanation for this is that my high value treats, carrots and apples, would be one piece, whereas my lower value treats are chaff nuggets that are very tiny. So I would give a handful of them every single time that I would reward instead of just one piece. Having a bunch of smaller, harder pieces to chew instead of one big soft piece made him stand in this position much longer. It is very obvious that it is much easier for him to just stand there and take his time. You can't really see it here because I'm standing right in front of the interesting part, but I was actually touching him on his neck, and that is a big deal for him. I decided to touch his neck and wither area first, because even though that is already a big deal, it's still the least problematic area for him. But it's still different for every horse. Another horse might prefer a different area to begin with. I am still clicking at this point, I will stop that later, but important to notice here is that he didn't take his head out of the bucket before I clicked. Then I move my hand towards his back, and this is very interesting for me personally because his back has always been a very sensitive area, but he seems to be pretty unbothered. I am now trying different positionings of my hand, and to my surprise, he is okay with everything here. Good job! I am doing something here that I wouldn't do anymore, which is still touching him while his head is out of the bucket, but back then I hadn't recognized this as a start button yet, so normally I would just stop when his head leaves the bucket. Luckily he was still busy chewing, so I think that contributed to him being okay with the touch, but also the fact that he dislikes the action of going towards his body most, and once the touch is being applied and he has accepted that, he's actually generally fine with it. But again, that is just my personal experience with this horse. Another horse might be very different with this, and it also doesn't work with him all the time. Sometimes he accepts the action of being touched at first and then he complains about it again. And that is fair enough. Nobody can tell you how you should work through your trauma. The traumatized individual is the only one who can say how fast and when to progress. And sometimes that means taking a few steps back again after making major progress. I am extremely happy with how much progress he has made in just one session. He is much more relaxed now, whereas in the beginning he would constantly seek for me. This is where I finally stopped clicking. I realized that this was not about shaping a specific behavior, but more about making the experience of being touched a positive one. And then, since everything is working so surprisingly well, I decided to slide on his back. There are several things happening at once here. First of all, I didn't give him enough treats, so he ran out right when I sat on his back. And then he was also confused as to why I had left my very predictable position on the mounting block. I had progressed a bit too fast, which simply meant that the most logical thing to do was to slide right off his back again. And that's what I did. I am very pleased to see that even though his confusion, he gets right back into the habit that we just established, standing next to me, eating. He is so relaxed, he even rests his foot, and in the background his herd mate is resting with us as well. This session that was initially planned for behavioral training suddenly turned into a bodywork session. To a lot of people, this might not look like anything special at all, but to us, this is a big thing because he doesn't like to be touched. He doesn't like to just hang out and relax with the person. This is the first time that I was able to create a context where he could just hang out with me and where I could touch areas that I could usually never touch, like his chest and his tight shoulder and even the girth area. Looking at these videos, you might not even think that this horse is traumatized regarding touch. But in the upcoming videos, you will see more occasions where he is not happy with the touch and expresses it very clearly. I love rewatching this session because the calmness that I experienced in it transfers very well. Don't mind my awkward position. This is just the next step from me simply touching him with the palm of my hand. Resting my torso on his back with my arms around his belly makes it possible to put some weight on him and extend the touch without actually sitting on him. You might not have even noticed, but the weight shift back and his facial expression is subtle communication of Tsonga that he wants me to stop the touch. It is where I realized that Tsonga has made this into a start button, where nose and bucket equals you are allowed to touch me. The last thing I did before ending the session was applying touch to his sacrum. The signal for Tsonga that the session has ended is putting the bucket on the ground.